Hey guys, so in this video we're going to talk about reasons why we forget. We've been talking about all these memory strategies to help us remember, but what causes us to forget things? And the answer is that really it can happen at any stage in what we've talked about. It can happen in sensory memory, short-term memory, or long-term memory. Forgetting can happen in encoding, in storage, and retrieval. So the first one that we want to talk about is encoding failure. So you guys know that to encode something, that means to get it actually into your brain, how you pull the information from something and get it into your brain. And so a lot of the reasons why we forget is it doesn't even get into our brain in the first place. Okay, so this could be a lot of things that have to deal with sensory memory, like the penny, for example. You guys didn't forget what the penny looked like. You just never had any long-term memory of what the penny looked like because you hadn't encoded it into your brain. Here's another chart that kind of shows how encoding failure can help you forget. Maybe you forgot a word that was on the screen originally for the 30 words I had you remember, but you didn't actually perceive it, you didn't sense it, and so because it didn't get in your brain in the first place, it was encoding failure. And we say we forgot it, but we say you never got in your brain in the first place. So what I want to do is I want to show you a video clip right now that kind of shows what encoding failure looks like in terms of forgetting.
Most of us think we're pretty observant, but with a bit of mind control, I wanted to see if I could make these people take even the most obvious things for granted. Excuse me, do you know how to get to Trinity Church from here?
Yeah. You see that church down there?
Yep, straight through there.
And then you keep going down.
Sorry, which way?
You see where that church is down there?
Yeah.
You stay on that, which is, I believe, Broadway. And then you walk down 2 or 3 blocks and Trinity Church is on the right-hand side. We're walking in that direction.
Excuse me, you don't know where Trinity Church is, do you?
Might be Wall Street and Broadway.
Okay. Well, we're down here somewhere, aren't we?
Yeah, you see Trinity Church.
Oops, sorry. Sorry.
Yeah. Inside the Trinity Church right there.
Yeah.
If you keep going that way, you'll hit Broadway, then you go down a couple of blocks.
Okay.
And
Thanks very much. That seemed almost too easy, so later on I see how far I can take it. Excuse me, do you know where Trinity Church is?
It's in that direction.
Okay.
Yeah.
Last time I switched with someone who looked a little bit like me, but where's the fun in that?
oh, excuse me.
You know who best direct you? The other side. You see where that lady's standing?
Sure.
That's the booth. No, the lady in the gray.
The other side.
Yeah, the other side of the booth.
So you don't know where it is?
Exactly what street? No, but it's in that direction.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Excuse me, do you know where Trinity Church is from here?
Yeah, fine. Come on, I'll take you, or you want to walk now?
I'm gonna catch some other people.
Sorry, guys.
So
Okay,
you're
listen,
saying-
once you go on Broadway,
Yes.
remember the numbers are going... I could have sworn it was another guy. Once you hit the Broadway, you're going down.
Yes.
Walk up straight
that
that
way.
way, and just walk straight down. You're
Brilliant.
gonna see it. It's right. It's really brown.
That's brilliant. Thanks for your help.
All right, but don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Excuse me, do you know where Trinity Church is? Ah, great. Where are we on here? We sort of there.
We're right here.
Right, girl, thank you.
Go on. We are the Brooklyn Bridge. You want to cross over there, go down Broadway, and you'll be right there. Okay. Thank you.
Excuse me, mate, do you know this area? Do you know the area? Do you know where Piccadilly Circus?
You go the tree.
So through there?
Yeah, through through Leicester Square.
Oh, sorry, go on for me. Where?
Keep going that way.
This way?
Get to Piccadilly Circus.
Oh, thank you very much.
Good
Oh,
luck.
careful of the car. Cheers, mate, thank you. Excuse me, are you familiar with this area?
No.
No? Okay, alright.
What are you trying to look at?
Piccadilly Circus?
Piccadilly Circus. Coming
Yeah.
back from here. Piccadilly Circus is
Oh,
right
sorry,
here.
hang on, sorry. Sorry, which?
I just saw it right here.
Okay, so is that straight over?
Definitely not that way. Piccadilly Circus is, I know, is that direction.
Over that way. Okay, thank you. you know this area at all?
A little bit.
Do you know how to get to St Paul's from here? I'm not even quite sure where we are.
Because it's still the are.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, can you just trying to work out where I'm going?
We are here.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I think it's sort of down there.
I'm sure that wouldn't have worked quite as well if I was a very famous pop star. Well, it took me over 2 hours to find Francesco's keys, which was disappointing, but I did go to Venice for free, and I didn't fall into the canal on the way home like a twat. Sorry, can I know how to get to St Paul's from here?
Yeah, you're welcome.
Ah, okay. Is it correct?
Go through to here.
Do you know where we are on here?
then-
Sorry.
Which direction do we go?
Hang on, just get my bearings. Liverpool Street, right, okay, we are...
All right, so even though every single person saw the original person, they never encoded that memory out of their sensory memory, and so each person didn't notice the swap, and so it was like nothing had happened. So that's encoding failure. Our second reason why we forget is storage failure. So we're just going down the information processing model here. And so the storage failure is called storage decay. And really what this says is if you have something actually stored in your long-term memory, over time that memory will decay. So we talked about long-term potentiation and how if you're rehearsing information, your synapses will actually change and become stronger. Well, they also have the ability to decay and revert those changes back. And so this is why if we don't rehearse something over a long period of time, we won't be able to recall it as quickly or if at all. And famous psychologist that you need to know regarding this is his name is Hermann Ebbinghaus, and he came up with this thing called the forgetting curve, which is pictured here on the screen. And what he said is that shortly after you learn a bunch of material, you forget about 50% of it, 50 to 60% of it very rapidly. But then your forgetting levels off over the rest of your lifetime or the rest of the days. So for example, with world languages, I think maybe some of you guys are in Spanish and you're doing some pretty complicated conjugations of verbs or word structures or things like that, or at least by the time you'll have graduated high school, you'll know some pretty complicated Spanish. But within your first 2 years of college, if you don't take Spanish, you're going to forget about 50 to 60% of that complicated stuff. But for the rest of your life, you're going to remember basic things about Spanish, like simple verb conjugations, simple sentence structure. That's not going to decay probably until like your 80s or 90s, if at all. You might actually hang on to that for the rest of your life. So hopefully that is an example that will resonate with you in this forgetting curve. So this is why rehearsal is important. So third in our reasons of why we forget is retrieval failure. And this can happen in a variety of ways, but the most basic way I know how to explain this could be through tip of the tongue syndrome. So when you experience tip of the tongue, you already have encoded that information into long-term memory. You know it's there, but you're really struggling and you're frustrated because you can't get it out. It's on the tip of your tongue. And so when this happens, sometimes it just takes your brain a little while to access a memory. And so to see if we can demonstrate tip of the tongue, I want you to take a look at these states and countries. And maybe you already know the capitals of some of them, and maybe you're already experiencing tip of the tongue by trying to think of the capitals. But something that really might help you experience tip of the tongue is if I give you the first letter of the capital of each country and state. So if you want to pause it now and see how many you can get or see if you can experience any tip of the tongue, that would be fine. But if not, I know we've all experienced it, so you know what I'm talking about here. And why tip of the tongue eventually is resolved is even though like you're like, oh, I'm never going to think about it, so you move on to something else, your brain is still working through parallel processing to try and come back and get that memory for you. So this is why later on you'll think, you'll shout out loud, oh, it was this, because that is when your brain has fully recognized the memory, even though you might be doing something else from then. So your brain is always working behind the scenes doing that parallel processing, multiple levels of activity at the same time. A second phenomenon of retrieval failure is called interference. And so to demonstrate what interference is to you, I'm going to change the screen in a second, and I'm going to have some words printed. But I don't want you to read what the words say. I want you to read as fast as you can what color each word is printed in. So you're going to say out loud as fast as you can, going down the list, what color the word is printed in, not what it actually says. Okay? We'll see if you can do it. And so hopefully you experience some interference. So this is really tough for our brains because we're so used to reading words as what they're actually meaning or what they actually say rather than what color they're printed in. And so especially when is a color. We envision that color. And so that is interference, meaning like our brain is kind of running into a wall a little bit. And so what I want to do is kind of show you how that impacts your memory. So to do this, I'm going to give you a number to remember right now. So here's the number: 0, 5, 2, 7, 1. Now before you write that down, I want you to read this paragraph, please. Okay, I can't even finish it because it is so long and confusing and I don't even know what it says. But now can you try and recall the number after reading this paragraph? Most people can't. The number is 05271. And what I hope to demonstrate was interference. So because you read this big paragraph before you had a chance to write down the word, that would be retrieval failure. That got in the way of your retrieval. So there are two types of interference that you must remember. The first is called retroactive interference. And this is when new information blocks out old information. So, and we use this all the time. So if you've ever rode the bus before, you change bus numbers year after year. Every year you get a new bus number, you forget your old one because you don't need to remember it. The new information has replaced the old information. Or a locker combination. If you have a different combination than you did last year, you forget the old combination because you just don't need it anymore. And so that's retroactive interference. And then we also have proactive interference, and this is when, rather than new information blocking old, we have old information blocking new information. So a good example of this is if you've ever called your significant other by your ex's name, your old information, that ex's name, has gotten in the way of you recalling and remembering your new significant other's name. So to test yourself, a minute ago I had you try and remember that number and then read the paragraph. Decide which type of interference that was. Was that retroactive or was that proactive? And the answer is retroactive because that new information, which was that paragraph, blocked out the old information of you learning the number. And the acronym that you're going to use to remember this is PORN. And I use this for a variety of reasons. It's very outrageous, and I promise you'll remember this. But P stands for proactive interference. Proactive interference is when old information, the O, gets in the way of new information. R stands for retroactive interference, and this is when new information, the N, gets in the way of old information. I guarantee you there will be a question about interference on the AP test and definitely on my test as well. And when you get to that question, write out PORN. That way you can ask yourself, is it old information getting in the way of new, or is it new information getting in the way of old? Okay, so that's where we're going to stop for today. So we have encoding failure, storage failure, and retrieval failure. And there's a couple more, but we'll cover those in class tomorrow. And just in case you were wondering, this is all Module 33 stuff. So we'll see you tomorrow.